let's check our answer. So it wants us to figure out the theoretical probability of choosing an X. So you can see over here I numbered all of my blocks, and there's 7 total. So I know that's my total possible outcomes. That's going to go on bottom of my fraction. And then I highlighted the X because there is only one X, and so that would give me 1 out of 7. So that means I'm going to do 1 divided by 7, and that gives me 0.14, and we're going to call that 3 because it's like 2.8, so we're just going to round that up to 3. And then I turn it into a percent, so I'm going to move it 2 places, and so I get 14.3%. So I have a 14.3% chance of drawing an X. So now we're going to take a look at experimental probability. So theoretical is when there's an even amount, like each block or each thing has an equal chance of being chosen. So in this case, there were 7 blocks, and each block is the same size, and therefore they all have an equal chance of being chosen. When you look at experimental, this is based on repeated trials of an experiment. So experimental means that we are actually going to go through the actions of conducting an experiment to see what the likelihood is. And so we write it the same way. We do P, and then we put our event in parentheses. And then that's equal to the number of times the event occurs. So how many times does it happen in our experiment? And that's divided by, or over, because it's the same thing, the total number of trials. So how many times did you conduct this experiment? So let's look at this example. So the table shows the results of spinning a penny 25 times. So what is the experimental probability of spinning heads? So whenever you think about this, you can't think what ifs. Okay, so there's 2 sides to the penny. We can't think about what ifs. There's either heads or tails. So how many times did they end up spinning heads? So over here, in this experiment, somebody else did it for us. Therefore, we don't have to actually go through the actions of doing it, but it looked like they got heads 6 times. And then how many total trials? This is when we have to add up how many times we got heads and how many times we got tails. So 19 plus 6 gives me 25. And so that is 25 here. And now we're looking at the probability of spinning heads, which is the number of times the event occurs. It happened 6 times, and this is going to be over 25 total times. And so when I do 6 divided by 25, I get 0.24 or 0 and 24 hundredths. And then we know that we move that decimal 2 times to the left, and that gives us 24%. So I'm going to have you take a moment to pause this video and do the try-its on your own. And then when you're ready, go ahead and hit play and check your answers with mine. Okay, so the table shows the results of rolling a number cube, which is just a die. They just always call it a number cube in our homework assignments and big ideas. But they roll it 50 times. So this is the total number of times. So we already know that this is going to go in my denominator for both. And then it says find the probability of each event below. So below it says the probability and then rolling a 3. Okay, so we want to know what's the probability of rolling a 3. So we're going to go over here to the number rolled, and the number rolled we want is a 3. And frequency means how many times did it happen. it happened 8 times. So we know that they rolled a 3 8 times out of 50 total. And so this would simplify down to 4 over 25. And when I do 4 divided by 25, I get 0 and 16/100. I'm going to move that decimal twice, and I get 16%. So now we know the probability of rolling an odd number. Okay, so we want it to be an odd number. I'm going to erase this really quick. So we have 1 is an odd number, 3 and 5. And so that means that happened 10, 8, and 11 times. So I'm going to take 10 plus 8 plus 11, and I'm going to get 29. That's my total number, or that's my number of times the event occurs. It happens 29 times out of 50 that I rolled an odd number. So when I do 29 divided by 50, I got 0 and 58/100. And that means that when I move that decimal twice to the left, I have 58%. So just remember, experimental probability is when we actually conduct an experiment, or somebody has actually conducted an experiment. And so this is based off of what we saw as our results, while theoretical is based off of what we would expect to happen. We don't actually test it out ourselves.